everyone, I'm going to tell you about the birth of Liliana Rena Lamb. In the evening of Monday, August 19th, I started seeing this bloody show around 8 p.m. I would say, and the bloody show is not as scary as it sounds. It's kind of just like blood and mucus mixed together. It kind of looks like a tint of pink sometimes on your toilet paper when you wipe, and sometimes there might be clots. I actually had to Google it because I thought that the mucus plug was supposed to come out first. I've read that the mucus plug could come out maybe 2 weeks before delivery, versus I've seen in forums women talk about how after the bloody show they gave birth maybe 24 to 48 hours after. And that night I was experiencing cramping as well. So on the next day, Tuesday, I actually had an appointment with my acupuncturist, and she was going to help me get my labor and contraction started, since at that point I was already considered full term at 39.5 weeks. By the way, the bloody show and the cramping had stopped during the day, but it came back during the nighttime. So when I was sleeping Tuesday night, or actually it was considered Wednesday morning because it was 2:45 a.m., is when I woke up to a lot of tightening and cramping, and then that's when the bloody show came back. At that point, because it kept continuing, I decided maybe I should time it and see if this is Braxton Hicks or if this is real contractions. And so I basically spent from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. timing these contractions. And it was weird because it was really consistent. It lasted between 45 seconds to 60 seconds, and then they occurred between 4 to 5 minutes. In our Kaiser classes, they tell you to come in at 5:11, which is when the contractions are 5 minutes apart, last for 1 minute, and it goes on for 1 hour. There would be one interval of maybe 7 or 8 minutes in between, but other than that, it was pretty consistent. So I woke Mike up at 6 a.m. and told him that maybe we should call and get ready. We were taught in class that the husband should call, because if the wife calls and she can talk, then they probably won't take her in. And so Mike called, but then they said that they want to speak to me. And so when they talked to me, I sound pretty normal because it wasn't that painful. She was telling me it's probably still really early in labor and that I should wait it out, because if I go in and I'm not at least 4 centimeters dilated, then I'll get sent home anyway. And so I decided to wait it out. And it continued like this throughout the day. I tried to get some rest, but every time I tried to lay down, the contractions actually got worse in my lower back. They were really painful. I couldn't really take a nap. I spent the rest of the day basically sitting, trying to walk around the house, bouncing on my yoga ball, and I pretty much did that for 12 hours until 2:45 p.m. By that time, I was kind of fed up because it was not getting any stronger, it was not getting any closer together, so I just wanted to go in to see how dilated I was. So we got to the hospital at 3:30 p.m., and when they checked me, I was only 4 centimeters dilated. I could still walk, I could still talk, I looked pretty normal, and so they didn't want to admit me yet. And they advised that since I lived farther away from the hospital, that maybe I should just stick around Santa Clara for maybe 2 hours, walk around, and see if it progresses. And if it doesn't, I can go home. So we were hungry, so we decided to go out to eat some dinner. I pretty much didn't eat all day because I was thinking that if I was really going into labor, I wanted to empty out my system rather than having to poop during labor and stuff like that. And so I was starving. So we went to get some burgers, and I asked Mike if I could just sit in the parking lot because I didn't want people staring at me if I'm trying to breathe through contractions. While I was waiting, the contractions were getting worse. I was starting to time them, and they were about 2.5 minutes apart and 85 seconds long. They were getting stronger and they were getting longer and closer together. So after we finished eating, I couldn't really eat that much, but we went straight back to the hospital. And that was really funny because when we were going to get checked in, there was a patient ahead of me. So the receptionist told me to wait outside. And then I started crying. I'm not sure if I was crying because I couldn't get checked in or because I was just dealing with the pain. Yeah, I never thought that I would start crying because it wasn't like super painful, but I don't know, I was just emotional at the moment. So this time when they checked me, I was 5 centimeters dilated and 80% effaced. Before I was only 70% effaced. And it was really funny because the 2 nurses that were helping me before, they came back to congratulate me on being admitted. And one of the nurses was really nice. She taught me how to breathe through my contractions, keep my chin down, keep my shoulders down, and just breathe deeply in and out. And then she was talking to me about the type of birth that I wanted. And so I feel like I'm similar to a lot of first-time moms out there. We don't really know what we want. We just think that because we haven't experienced it yet, maybe we want to go with that natural birth if we can. But if we can't tolerate the pain, then we'll get the epidural. But the nurse told me, don't do that. You don't go into it thinking, okay, if I'm 5 centimeters dilated right now, I can deal with it. Let's try for 6. It goes on and goes on. Try for 7, try for 8 centimeters until the point that you can't tolerate it. Because when you reach that point when you can't tolerate it, then you don't have control of yourself. And then the anesthesiologist is not going to want to put a needle in you because that would be really risky. She told me she herself herself actually asked for epidural at 3 centimeters. So I was like, okay, I'm only 5 centimeters, but it's painful, so I'm gonna get it now because at least I can still control my breathing through this. And then she also reassured me because before, the only thing I've heard about epidurals is horror stories about how they would run out before birth, and that's why people told me to try to stick it out until I can't anymore before getting the epidural. But she reassured me that the epidural gives a dose every 45 minutes, and if it's not strong enough, I have this button that I can push that gives me another dose. So that was really reassuring for me that I wouldn't feel pain during the delivery process. And another reason why I chose to get the epidural really soon was because after watching a lot of labor and delivery stories on YouTube, a lot of them recommended getting it because it would give them time to rest. I only got 2 hours of sleep the night before, so obviously I do need a lot of rest before trying to push this baby out of me. I mean, I got some rest because I wasn't feeling the pain, but I didn't get like a full night's sleep because obviously with the epidural, a nurse has to flip you over every hour or so to make sure that the epidural is getting both sides of your body. The issue was that Potato favored one side over the other. So if I laid on my left side, her heart rate actually went down, so I spent more time on my right side. There was a point in time where I was feeling like a lot of pain and pressure on my left side lower back. When I would flip over for the short period of time on my left side, I would have to use the extra dose just to ease the pain on that side. I was officially admitted at 7:30, but I didn't get into my room until about 8:30, and then they checked me again at midnight. At midnight, they thought I was about 7 centimeters dilated, but it was kind of hard to tell because the amniotic sac was in the way, and so they decided to break my water. And after breaking my water, they found out that I was actually 8 centimeters dilated. So when they came back to check at 3 a.m., I forgot the reason why, but we decided to labor down for an hour. And at 4 a.m. was when I started to practice push. The issue that I had was when we started practice pushing was that the epidural was working so well that I didn't feel any pressure, and so I didn't know when I was having a contraction, and I couldn't tell how well I was pushing. So we actually had to call the anesthesiologist back to reduce the dosage of the epidural. And so we had to wait about 45 minutes before we started practice pushing again. This time around, when we started practice pushing, the baby wasn't coming out, and so they actually had to call the doctor to use an ultrasound to see what position the baby was in. The baby was actually sunny side up, but the head facing up, which actually makes it harder for labor because if the head was facing down towards your spine, then I guess the shape of the head fits better into your cervix versus the other way, where the nose would be hitting your bones or something like that. And also baby's body was kind of twisted and shifted towards the left side of my body. So her back and her spine were all on my left side. So they had to call a second doctor in to help me rotate and turn the baby. It took several rounds of pushing and 2 attempts of trying to turn the baby to make sure that she was in the correct position for labor. And that was the most uncomfortable feeling that I've had, with one doctor pushing at my side and another doctor's arm up from the bottom trying to turn the head. It was a lot of pressure. But I'm glad that it worked out, because if it hadn't, then I don't know, labor might have been a lot more difficult, or I might have had a C-section. Oh, I forgot to talk about Mike. So the entire time Mike was trying to sleep on the couch and get some rest, it wasn't until about the time that they were trying to turn the baby that he woke up and was by my side. So he was there to see Liliana's head full of hair, and he was there to see her come out and cut the cord. So Liliana was 8 pounds, 5.5 ounces, and 19 inches long. I really thought that most newborns kind of look like raisins. They're really red and wrinkly, but Lily had these really cute chubby cheeks. So yeah, that's my birth story. Coming up next is my postpartum video, and you'll get to meet Lily. Thanks for watching, and if you made it this far, give me a thumbs up. You can also hit the bell and subscribe to my channel over here. That way you know when I post a new video, or you can watch my previous video over here. Bye!